But when we eat pure carbohydrate, which we do very often, whether it's bread or cereals or rice or soda pop or juice, now our insulin levels can go up by 10 times and can stay elevated for up to 3 hours. Okay, so this is what happens to insulin. But what I haven't shown you is what happens to glucose. Because if we look at the glucose levels, we see that glucose levels will go very, very high, then they will go very, very low. Now, where does it go? When we see the glucose going up in the blood, it's because we're eating the glucose. It goes from our intestine into our blood. And so we see the blood glucose go high. But where does it go when it comes down? Because if we can bring it down quickly, it's healthier. Then insulin does not need to be as high for as long. So one of the keys, one of the solutions to metabolic health is being able to move the glucose out of our blood as quickly as possible. So that gives us the question, where does the glucose go? We know how it comes in. It comes in because we eat it. But where does it come out of our blood? Most of it, this is important. So when you teach your friends, you say your blood glucose goes up and we need it to come down really quickly and stay down as long as possible. Where does it go? You teach them, it goes into your muscle. Muscle is the main tissue in the human body. For an average human, anywhere in the world, most of their glucose at any moment is coming into muscle for 2 reasons. One, in a healthy human, muscle is the biggest tissue on our body. And then number 2, it also can have a very high metabolic rate. So there's a lot of muscle and it is very hungry. It's like my family, when I was growing up, I have 12 brothers and sisters. Can you believe it? True story. I am number 9 of 13 children. And so this is like the Bikman home when we were growing up. Lots of hungry children, and we were eating lots of food. This is like the muscle. So we were like muscle cells. We have a lot of muscle in the human body, and the human body eats, and the muscle eats a lot of blood glucose. It's very hungry. It's like me and my 12 brothers and sisters. We were very hungry. And so 80% of the glucose goes into your muscle. So when you see blood glucose go up and then it comes down, 80% of coming down is because it's eating, the muscle is eating it. Muscle is very hungry. It wants to eat this blood glucose. So if we take that information and go back to this view, you may have a friend who is worried about diabetes. That's a very big problem in this part of the world, like it is everywhere. And you will say to them, we want to stop the diabetes. We don't want it to go so far. And what we do then is say, ask the question, what makes the blood glucose start to go up? Why does blood glucose start to climb so fast? It's because muscle matters. This is people who may not have enough muscle. Because if your muscle mass is going down, you simply cannot move the glucose out of your blood. The glucose is staying and going higher and higher. So we want the glucose to move from the blood into our hungry muscle. Now let me teach you a little bit more about the muscle, because this is a tissue that I have studied a lot in my lab. In fact, sometimes, maybe some of you will be brave enough to come to my lab at my university, and we will do what is called a muscle biopsy, where we will put a needle in your leg and pull out a piece of your muscle. Who wants to volunteer and let me take some of your muscle? But we will take that muscle tissue and then we will go, some of you raise your hand, you're crazy. You're crazy. That's just how much, that's because you love science, right? You love science so much that you will let me take a piece of your muscle. I love it. All I want is some of your hair. I will give you some muscle and you give me some hair. Perfect. Okay, so let me teach you a little bit about the muscle. Okay, because the muscle is hungry and it loves to listen to insulin. Insulin will tell the muscle. It's like mommy talking to baby. Insulin will come to the muscle and it will bind on what is called an insulin receptor. It's like it comes and knocks on a door. It knocks on the door, and insulin will tell the muscle cell, it will say, muscle cell, I need you to do something. And the muscle cell will say, what do you need me to do? And insulin will say, I need you to eat this glucose. There's too much glucose in the blood. And the muscle cell, if it's being obedient and is insulin sensitive, it will open door. That is this little, what is called GLUT4. So insulin will turn on GLUT4. And GLUT4, well, it stands for glucose transporter 4. GLUT4 will open up, and now glucose can come into the muscle cell from the blood. That gives the muscle cell energy, and it will help the blood sugar, the blood glucose levels start to come down. But insulin does so much. And this is important even with Stronghold, which we'll talk more about in just a moment. But insulin will tell the muscle to grow and be big and strong. So we want insulin to work. I hope by now you know that when you teach your friend metabolic health is a problem, insulin resistance is the metabolic problem, they will say, how can I help solve it? One thing that you might not have talked with them about before, you will tell them, you need muscle. Muscle is critical to the body having good metabolic health. More muscle means less glucose and less insulin. Because we have that muscle, it will take in the glucose, it eats the glucose, and if glucose is coming into the muscle, then insulin can come down. But if we don't have enough muscle, if muscle is down, now there's less hungry mouth to eat the glucose. So we don't have as much place to put the glucose. So glucose levels will be higher, and if glucose levels are higher, so too will insulin be higher. Now we have insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Here's a new word that I want you to remember, and Dr. Paul and I will speak more about this in just a moment, but this is anabolic resistance. Have you ever heard the word anabolic? I want you to become familiar with it. I want you to use it when you talk to people. You've heard the word metabolism. Metabolism is two words. It's two different processes in one. It is, if you think of the word anabolic, it is part of anabolic and part catabolic. That is metabolism or metabolic. And anabolic means you're building something. So if a cell is anabolic, it's building more molecules inside of itself. It's getting bigger. But it needs to be balanced with catabolic. Catabolic is when the cell is breaking down, and so it's getting smaller. Both of those, anabolic and catabolic, is what we call metabolism. And so when we think about muscle, we want more anabolic. We want to be building up our muscles so we're big and strong and we feel good, we move well. But as we get older, or as we are sedentary or lazy, we start to experience something called anabolic resistance, which is now when the muscle cannot hold on to its protein very well. It can't stay big. It starts to get smaller and smaller. It's not listening very well anymore. We're going to be teaching you more and more about amino acids. Whenever you hear the words protein, you can think about amino acids, because every protein is made up of amino acids. And with anabolic resistance, we have less amino acids going into the muscle to allow it to grow, and we have more going out. So we're not able to have an anabolic or building up process. We have more catabolic or breaking down. Anabolic resistance is a driver of metabolic problems. It also makes us be frail and weak. And so as you teach these principles to your friend, they will say, how can I overcome anabolic resistance? and you have a new way to help. Yes, good. Stronghold has been designed specifically with anabolic resistance in mind. Now you may say, well, I already have protein. No, not like this you don't. Because Stronghold has been designed to have complementary molecules to work together, as we'll talk more about today. And I will make sure that you understand this well before we are done. There are 3 things I want you to remember when you talk with your friends about Stronghold and how important it is in order to overcome anabolic resistance to help build and maintain muscle mass. Okay, 3 things. Number 1, we chose the superior protein. Not all proteins are the same, especially as we get older. We need the best proteins. What we have put in Stronghold is a protein that has been shown in humans to go into the muscle at 2 times higher than other proteins. So 2 times more amino acids get into the muscle with the proteins that we are using. And at the same time, we found that this same protein increases muscle protein synthesis by about 50%, by almost 50%. This is an important point. Muscle protein synthesis. That is the degree to which the muscle can take in amino acids and then stack them together to build more muscle protein. It's like Lego pieces. The muscle cell cannot pull in the whole protein. It can only pull in the building blocks, or the amino acids, and then it must form those into protein. So the protein that we put in Stronghold can increase muscle protein synthesis by 47%. This is human research. Number 2, we put in the most powerful, in addition to the protein, we have put in not only the most powerful amino acid, which is leucine, but we also have put in a leucine metabolite. That's a big, long word, hydroxymethylbutyrate, but you can just call it HMB. HMB is made from leucine, but the human body only makes a little bit of HMB. And these 2 work together very, very well. This is why I said that Stronghold is more than just protein. So leucine is the strongest signal for amino acid coming to the muscle cell, telling it to make new protein. So it is the strongest anabolic signal that we can eat. Now HMB works differently because it's the strongest anti-catabolic signal. Now remember, anabolic is when a cell is building it up. Catabolic is when it's breaking down. And we want the muscle cell to have less breakdown. So we want anti-catabolic, and that's what HMB does very, very well. But these 2 together, leucine and HMB, is very important, especially as we are lazy and especially as we get older. When we get older, we need more stimulus to help our muscles stay big. It gets harder and harder. When we're young, it's easy. We can eat any protein and it's just fine. As we get older, or we are less active and more sedentary, we need a stronger signal. And Stronghold is that stronger signal. These 2 molecules together activate a protein called mTOR. That's a word it's a longer word, but we'll just call it mTOR. mTOR is the critical signal in the muscle that when it's turned on, it increases muscle protein synthesis. So mTOR is the main anabolic signal. If we want to overcome anabolic resistance and help all of us have bigger muscles for longer into life, we need more mTOR in our muscle to be activated. And these 2 molecules, leucine and HMB, are very, very good. They're the best signals at increasing mTOR. Okay, these 2 also have been shown in humans, HMB especially, to protect muscle even during fasting. So this is such an important idea because, of course, as part of the field grade system, are you all going to be at my talk tomorrow? At the main event? Rajdi's going to be there. Yes? Tomorrow? I will talk more about how these can all work together. But the field grade system is designed to help you fast for other reasons too. But that's one of the reasons we put it together the way we did. But when you fast, you don't want to be losing muscle. Stronghold can help. So it's a very protective effect, even during fasting. Now, I'm not done yet. This is 2 things. There's number 3, which is creatine. My focus as a scientist has been to study metabolism in cells. I want to teach you some very interesting part about metabolism. When you are working your muscles, and then let's say you are exercising. I've been going to the gym while I've been here, and I see some of you at the gym sometimes, and I'm very proud of you. And you will be exercising, and you take a break. And then how long do you take a break until you can start going again? That's in a way dependent on how quickly your body or your muscle can make more of a molecule called ATP. ATP is the energy that our cells will use in order to get work done, no matter the cell. I'm talking about muscles. If you have a muscle cells, and you want your muscle cells to go running, or you want to do pull-ups or push-ups, your muscle cells need ATP. But even right now, as you're listening and you're thinking, your brain is using ATP. Your nerves are using ATP. It is the ultimate energy source for every cell. So we need ATP. And what happens is when we use ATP, when the cell needs to work. And so we have these 3 phosphate molecules, and every time we contract a muscle, I'm working my muscle, I'm exercising, we break off an ATP. Now there's only 2 phosphates. Creatine helps put the phosphate back on. So this allows you to get more exercise done in a shorter period of time. You are literally allowing your muscle to make new energy faster. This is what creatine can do. But it does not stop there. Creatine has also been shown to activate genes in our muscles to promote more muscle growth. People only ever talk about the energy, which is great, but it also directly activates the synthesis of new muscle protein. These are 2 genes in the muscle, MyoD1 and myogenin, and creatine turns them both on. Now, also, remember I said that every cell of your body uses ATP for energy, even your brain. So as much as I'm talking about Stronghold from the perspective of our muscle and helping our muscles be big and strong, it also helps the muscle in our head, or if you will, our brains. That there's human evidence to show that you can use creatine to help people think better and remember better. If you are sometimes sleep deprived, I just got into Korea from the United States 2 days ago, and I'm so tired. I can take Stronghold, and the creatine helps you feel better even if you're sleep deprived. This has been published in human studies. Creatine helps the brain function even when you're sleepy. So think about creatine as giving your whole body energy that goes beyond just your muscle. Okay, now of course, what makes me very pleased to be involved with Unicity is how determined they are to always rely on science. So I'm going to share with you some new science that we did in my lab at my university. So this is a new science alert. I'm going to show you 2 data sets. The acute response, so what happens in the body when you just take a Stronghold, and then I'm going to show you the chronic results. What happens when you keep taking it for weeks? Okay, first, acute results. Do you remember the name of that protein I told you must be turned on for the muscles to have more muscle protein synthesis? mTOR. Perfect, good job. A+. mTOR. And look at what happens to mTOR after you take Stronghold. It goes up by 5 times in the muscle, which is where you want it. 5 times increase means that you have 5 times more muscle protein synthesis, and we want it in our muscle. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is this going to complement me with Stronghold, where we have focus, or with Feel Great, where we focus so much on blood sugar control? Well, we wanted to ask that question. So we looked at what happens to insulin and what happens to glucose. No change whatsoever. Now, something that's very interesting, have you heard about a hormone called GLP-1? Yes, even here in East Asia, right? Semaglutide. Have you heard semaglutide or Ozempic or Wegovy? These are weight loss drugs that activate a hormone called GLP-1. Well, we wanted to measure. We found that people who took Stronghold seemed to have they were more satisfied, less hunger, less appetite. And we found that GLP-1 goes up by more than double. So just taking Stronghold increased GLP-1 significantly. Okay, that's acute response. What happens in the body right after we take Stronghold. But what about after it's been taken for many weeks? So we looked at muscle. One marker of how hungry the muscles are is how much amino acids are in the blood. If the muscle is holding on to more amino acid, that means it's making more protein and there's less amino acid in the blood, and that's exactly what we found. We found that after this Stronghold has been taken for several weeks, there was less amino acid in the blood, which is a very good sign because it means there's more in the muscle. And in fact, when we looked at what happens in the muscle, we found that muscle mass went up by almost 20% over these few weeks. So a significant increase in muscle mass in these preclinical studies. But what about fat tissue? Can you imagine how powerful it is if we can grow muscle mass but shrink our fat mass? Then we would be like superheroes, right? And that's what we found. Fat tissue went down significantly. No change. We weren't having any change in diet. They just gained muscle and they lost fat. And then when we actually looked at the muscle cell under a microscope, we found that individual muscle fibers were up to twice as big as they were before. So the muscle was directly growing in response to nothing but the Stronghold. We were not changing exercise, we were not changing diet. They were just taking Stronghold, which has been designed specifically to help muscles get big. By stimulating more muscle growth, by promoting anabolism, activating anabolic reactions, then it was turning off catabolic reactions. Remember, HMB is anti-catabolic. And then 3, with creatine, it is literally giving your cells a faster opportunity to replenish energy. It's able to make more ATP faster. So you can exercise better and you can defend and grow your muscle better. I hope that you have taken some notes and that you can go and teach your friends just like I have been teaching you. Thank you so much.